We have intern Genna Saunders, who spent many an hour in the woods with Mallory.
That is true.
Many an hour focusing on the hemlock trees, everybody's favorite. Genna is a local girl from Aldershot, and I will throw out, just so people start to know where we come from for education to get our start in the world. She's a Trent girl. I'm a Guelph boy. We never met. No.
You did not.
Anyway, so over to you, Genna.
Thanks. I'm going to hold the mic, so let me know if there's any feedback. So yeah, I went to Trent. I have a undergraduate degree in environmental science and geography. Hello, it's nice to see a lot of familiar faces and also some new ones. My name's Genna. As Tys said, I'm the terrestrial intern with Mallory and Lindsay this year, and I'll be presenting on the eastern hemlock tree and a new invasive forest pest that's impacting them. And this project was partially funded by the Invasive Species Action Fund, so thank you to the Invasive Species Center for funding it. So here's the star of the show, the eastern hemlock, also known as the redwood of the east. Eastern hemlocks are a coniferous tree, and they are the only native native hemlock in eastern Canada. And if given the chance, they can live up to 1,000 years old and grow over 150 feet in height. They have broad crowns with drooping low branches, flat needles that grow singly, and very cute cones. And we love our eastern hemlock trees. Their dense canopy is a haven for wildlife. They've been reported to support over 90 species of birds, including the endangered Acadian flycatcher, which you can see here. Deer will also be seen sheltering under them to find protection from the snow. They're also mostly found at the corner of, on the slope of ravines growing over shallow creeks. So this makes them super important because their roots will stabilize the slopes and prevent erosion, and their broad branches will hang low over the creeks, creating a cool, oxygen-rich microclimate that's great for fish and benthics. So essentially, like great water quality. And remember when I said that they can live 1,000 years and grow 150 feet? They hold a lot of carbon. Culturally, eastern hemlocks are super respected trees in indigenous communities as well. They provide material for building and also for medicine. They can be used to treat ailments such as colds, skin conditions, arthritis, and scurvy. So at this point in the presentation, you might be wondering, what's the threat? And that brings us to the hemlock woolly endangered, or HWA, as I'll be referring to it from now on. So HWA is an invasive forest pest. It kills hemlock trees by feeding on the nutrients and starving the tree of its water and nutrients. And the key identifier of the HWA are these woolly egg sacs that you can see. They're almost like little snowballs, and they occur on the underside of the branches. And each of these egg sacs, these tiny little egg sacs on this, you can see, I don't know if you can see the hand there, each of these egg sacs contain up to 200 eggs. So this small branch can contain more than 40,000 eggs total. Now that I've shown you the eggs, what do the adults look like? Can you see them? How about now? Okay, I think you can see it now. So what we are looking at here are magnified images of the adults, or the crawlers. The first two are photos that we've taken from our trees through a hand lens, and the second one is found online. And you can see that they're positioned at the base of the needle there, so that is actually their position when they feed, and they insert an apparatus into the base of the needle, and that's where they suck the nutrients out. And so this tiny little insect, it might not seem like much, but when you imagine a severely infested branch that might have over 40,000 eggs on it, you can see that the tree might not keep up. So this tiny little aphid has the potential to kill a hemlock tree in as little as 5 years. And some early signs of decline are yellowing needles and a dying canopy. And when this happens, the hemlocks can die. And when they do, they can become hazardous, especially within proximity to a trail and especially when on a slope. So HWA is at RBG, but how did it get here? It was introduced to North America in the 1950s. It was likely through infested plant material, but we're not super sure. And it was first detected in West Virginia, and it's been moving across the East Coast ever since. So by 2023, HWA had established populations in Niagara and Nova Scotia, and in Ontario specifically. Its most northern detection is in Grafton County, which is near Port Hope, up at the top of the map. And we found it at RBG in 2023, and it remains the most western detection in Ontario. So at RBG, it was first detected at Caleb's Walk in Westdale, and the main spreader, you could say, of HWA are migratory birds. So in the spring and summer, when the crawlers emerge from their woolly little egg sacs, they can attach to birds' legs and essentially hitch a ride. And as many of you may know, RBG is a migratory bird hotspot, so it's not surprising that HWA has made its way here. Okay, we're setting the scene. At this point, it's March 2023. We have HWA at Caleb's Walk, but we don't know anything else, and we don't even know exactly how many hemlock trees we have. So we decided we needed to do a study on the South Shore where the original detection was found, and this meant we had to inventory hemlock trees and see if the infestation had spread any further than we initially thought. So the star there is Caleb's Walk, and the rest are a bunch of big question marks. So here are the parameters for our study. We collected diameter at breast height measurements, we looked at canopy structure, we took samples, we looked at overall tree health, and most importantly, we sanitized. So between going through stands or even like moving across the trail, we would make sure to spray our boots with isopropyl alcohol so that if any of the little crawlers wanted to hitch a ride on us, we weren't gonna let them. So here are some photos. The first one is of Lindsay and I taking a DBH measurement of one tree. And the second photo here is an example of an upward shot into a hemlock canopy. So as you can see, there's like a bit of light infiltrating in through this canopy. So this would be an example of what we might consider like a 40 to 60% canopy structure. So it's not as good as we would like. So we might be able to assume that this tree is maybe starting to show some signs of decline and canopy dieback. And so the main reason, the main way that we could tell if there was an infestation was by pole pruning and actually taking a sample of the branch. And we were trying to determine if the tree was even infested, and if so, how much. And again, we would sanitize the pole pruners after every branch and every tree. We don't want any crawlers latching on. So here's an example of what we might have been looking for. So these are all samples that we pruned from trees that we surveyed. And that's the furthest picture is an example of like a light infestation, maybe like less than 5 egg sacs on a branch, moderate, 5 to 20 egg sacs, severe, and more than 20 egg sacs. So again, I want to reiterate, a severe infestation, 40,000 eggs, 40,000 adults, all in one branch. So what did we learn? Over the course of the summer, we inventoried over 700 hemlock trees on the South Shore, and we found that Caleb's Walk was severely infested. It's the largest red section that you can see on the map there. And we found another severe infestation slightly north, and then interestingly, we found a moderate satellite population near McMaster. This is a map that shows the number of trees on the South Shore properties, and they're organized by the stands and the levels of infestation. So the most important takeaway here is the largest bar on the screen that you can see. That's the screen or the stand of Caleb's Walk. So you might be able to tell as the most trees, the densest hemlock dominance, and about 2/3 of it is infested, and 1/4 of that being severely infested. This is another piece of information that was really critical for us to collect, and that's the DBH class. And we have a lot of mid-range trees and also some more mature ones around the 80 to 90 centimeters. But for the most part, kind of like, mid-range, 20 to 30 centimeters were our most common. And this information was important to collect because when we eventually want to treat the trees with pesticide, that is the parameter that we use. So RBG is responding to this problem. We are responding through public partnership and outreach especially. We've installed signage at several trailheads. And you might have seen these if you've hiked Caleb's Walk or Hickory Valley recently. There's an example of one here that was made by CFIA. We've also partnered with a lot of our neighbors. We discuss strategies, and that includes municipal governments, conservation authorities, and nonprofits. We've also held an information session for landowners in Westdale and for people whose property is back onto Caleb's Walk. Something that we've done internally to respond to this is by treating trees with pesticide, as I mentioned on the previous graph slide. So we have treated 41 trees with triazine on both the north and the south shore of RBG. And triazine is a botanically derived pesticide. Treatments were done by a contractor, and what you do is you drill into the base of the tree and you actually inject the pesticide there. And the amount of pesticide that you inject is based on the tree's DBH, which again is why it's so important to know. And so this type of pesticide offers 1 to 2 years of protection, so we will have to continue with these treatments for years to come until a long-term solution is available in Ontario. Something else notably that we did internally this year is create a comprehensive management plan, which will be available on the RBG website later on. So as we move forward with this, our main goal is to slow the invasion front of HWA. That includes both within RBG nature sanctuaries, but also by extension the Burlington and Hamilton area. So that means that we're going to attempt to reduce the population and retain high-value trees by treating the infested ones as best we can. We're also going to continue seeking out research opportunities and further understand how we can move forward with management. Again, this has been a problem in the state since the 1950s. We're going to continue to remain partners with people that we share property lines with, and we're going to inventory the remainder of hemlock trees next year. So that is our RBG North Shore and our Hendry Valley. I love hemlock trees. So at this point, we're nearing the end of the presentation. You might be wondering what you can do or how you can help. So if you have a hemlock tree on your property, you can keep them healthy by removing invasive species around them and watering them during dry spells. Almost essentially like taking care of them as you would something in your own garden. And we love our birds, but maybe don't hang bird feeders in and around hemlock trees just to prevent them from maybe landing or enticing them to go into the trees. Something else is to not move any hemlock materials. We have that going on here. We don't move any hemlock materials on RBG properties, even if that's in compost. And if you're interested in treating your own tree, consult your local tree care professional to determine what treatment options are best for you. And last, and possibly the most important, is to sanitize. So when you go for a hike at Caleb's Walk, make sure to sanitize your boots and change your clothes before maybe going for a hike in the Dundas Valley, for example, which is a mostly hemlock-dominated forest. So just take care when you visit from forest to forest. Thank you very much.
All right. Questions or not? Save them for break.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a question. Two questions.
There's
3
two.
questions. Oh, this is a hot
There's
one.
the blue shirt, yeah.
What do you suggest we do when we come across these egg sacs in the wild?
So the question is, what do we do when we come across these egg sacs in the wild? So HWA is a regulated pest, so letting the Canadian Food Inspection Agency know is a great way. Like directly, I believe that they have hotlines for invasive species. If you also use like iNaturalist, a lot of places like this Canadian Food Inspection Agency, like if you post a picture of the egg sacs on iNaturalist, they have algorithms that will like automatically track that. So that's a way of like letting people know.
So we don't spray them with pesticides or anything?
No, I don't think so. Does anyone? Yeah, I think just like monitoring, because especially if it's further spread than we initially think, that helps them map its range. Yes?
Are there any known predators to this little problem?
That is a great question. On the East Coast, there are not. So the Eastern and Carolina hemlock are the only 2 hemlocks that occur on the East Coast of North America. The Carolina hemlock is in the States. They're the only hemlocks in the world that do not have an endangered counterpart. So we actually have Western hemlocks that are native to Canada on the West Coast out in BC, and they have an endangered counterpart, but we don't here.
Can I add that for a minute?
There's also some, in the West Coast, there are some insects that do feed on the hemlock woolly adelgid out there, the western counterpart. So we have this Canadian Food Inspection Agency and folks in Nova Scotia are working on introducing biocontrol. So there are two different, there's silver flies and a beetle that feed on different life stages of the HWA. So they're doing trials, and these trials have been happening in the US as well. The trick is to have both of these insects available to feed on, because they feed at different life stages, and you need that impact on HWA in order to knock it back. So it's starting, there's trials. We're just getting the data now as to whether they're successful, but we have noted that the beetles are spreading on their own and able to survive some of our more northern temperatures, so like in New York.
Let's go online.
I was actually hoping to lure Mallory back to the podium for a follow-up question to her presentation too.
I see.
Sure.
Yeah.
More hemlock questions first.
I have a question from Jan.
You mentioned that back in the 50s, it was starting to happen down in the eastern states. Are there any trees down there that are proving resistant that we might be able to hitchhike up here?
Yeah, so Jan's wondering if there are any in the states that have become resilient to eastern hemlock. I believe that there's one hemlock stand, Mallory, that you might know more about called the bulletproof hemlock stand, but I don't. Yeah.
So because the Americans are way advanced on this topic, we've been reading a lot into, there's a New York State Hemlock Initiative program, and there are certain stands in the states that haven't been treated with pesticide that indeed have survived, have some level of resistance of HWA. So the American researchers are currently looking to see genetically maybe if there's some sort of advantage to that, and if there is, maybe they start a seed collection program and start propagating those potentially resistant trees, but we're still kind of working through that.
I am seeing that my time is up, so I'll pass it back to you, but same thing, if anyone has any questions, I'll be there for coffee.